up, dudes? It's Gaz, and welcome back to another Warframe video. So we're going to try a new video type. Today we got an Elite Deep Archimedean solo gameplay commentary. I'm going to show you guys how I do a solo Elite Archimedean, and basically what items you should be looking out for to have a really easy time doing these, because this is how you can get more Tau shards for your Netracell search pulses than you normally would just by doing Netracells as normal. As far as the missions this week, I might start doing these every week if people actually enjoy them. This is like the second or third week I've done a solo Elite Archimedean. This one was actually probably pretty challenging to some players. Now, as far as the mission types, we got Mirror Defense, and I'm going to summarize the debuffs. The objective is constantly taking damage, and if you pick up the glyphs, it will heal the objective. Also, the arm enemies have become Rupturing Fragments, which explode on death, doing about 5,000 damage per hit to the objective. So you gotta make sure those arm enemies are nowhere near the objective when they die. Additionally, we've got Alchemy on here. Whenever you grab a grenade, it will deal that type of damage the grenade does to you over time. So Toxin Grenades bypass your shield. Everything else doesn't really matter on this one, to be honest. As for survival, we had a hostile support modifier. So the life support tower delivery system is disabled. You have to kill a mech once it appears to drop life support. So if you don't really have great stuff for killing mechs, that can be kind of rough. Also, enemies will explode in void energy, which does a lot of damage. For the personal modifiers, we had reduced ability duration. Whenever you cast an ability, you get less armor. Pretty much no ammo is dropping, and no operator allowed. Now, I'm going to go ahead and tell you right now, when I'm doing these videos, I will be doing all of the 70-50 VOS4 here at the end. For normal players that aren't just trying to make, guides and content and help people out with this stuff, dude, honestly, just do one less modifier. Like, you can choose to, instead of bringing the frame that they're telling you to bring like Dante. Dante is extremely ridiculous for these missions. Or just, if you don't like your operator being turned off, disable operator. The only thing you lose from doing one less modifier or challenge is going to be that 50 VOS4 at the end. And 50 VOS4 is really not worth it, okay? I am doing this for the purposes of video and because I like to have a challenge. Alright, so as far as the gear that we had this week, a lot of the damage was dealt with the melee influence arcane. So before we get into this gameplay, this is what I use and the builds I use. So we have Parkour Velocity and Casting Speed on Garuda with 1 green Tau shard for corrosive stack increase. Basically just for the new patch, but for right now it works totally fine as well. We've got one of my go-to Molt Garuda builds here. Just constant shield gating, constant healing with the Molt Reconstruct Arcane, and since we're using melee influence to be our main DPS source, we got Arcane Fury, giving increased melee damage. Everything else on here is just my standard Garuda stuff for like everyday lazy missions. Now, funny enough, the Kuva Hind didn't really get used here, but I did have a kind of a build that was trying at least. We have a Corrosive Radiation build on the Hind with a crit damage multi-shot Riven. Now, again, this thing did not really get used much at all. It's not really that great. It was pretty much just melee influence saving the day. And in that same vein, this Twin Grakata did not actually get used like at all. The main thing that did get used is this Tenant Agendist, which has 60% Toxin. And the build, we just wanted to make sure we had Electric on here so we could proc melee influence. We got Vira Electric. This thing's pretty slow, so we got 2 attack speed mods. Why no crit? Well, because melee influence isn't really affected by crit. Melee influence on melee status effect, chance to make AoE status procs, basically. Very good, and it's basically what we use to do all the damage here. We've got Narrowmon Focus Tree, so we never lose our multiplier, so we have our constant Weeping Wound stacked for tons of procs. For the companion, we have the Diriga. Now, this Diriga build probably should have been different, but I just brought my normal Diriga build for, like, Void Cascade. The problem I should have changed my build is this Mystic Bond mod was messing up my shield getting and almost made me die in the final mission. But yeah, usually this would be pretty good for most frames right here. We've also got the Prime Laser Rifle to give increased Tenacious Bond crit damage. Was not needed at all. But yeah, we've got a Laser Rifle Critical Chance Riven, which gives us over 50% critical chance for Tenacious Bond. Alright, let's go ahead and get into the footage and what we're using. Before we do, though, big thing here, really helpful things for these Elite Archimedeans, guys. Try to get an Elite on-call crew member. If you watch my Hoba video, basically get Hoba. On-call will be on kill. Every time it gets a kill, it will heal in an AoE of 50 health per second. That can be very helpful because it actually does a lot of damage too. Additionally, we've got a Phase Specter. This Specter is a Dante Specter. So when we summon in a Dante Specter, they will cast Dante's abilities, giving us Overguard, giving us a lot of Overguard, and doing some other stuff too. We've also got a Ancient Healer Specter. This Ancient Healer Specter will make the objective takes less damage in the Mirror Defense. Pretty helpful. And also for the Mirror Defense, we get a Shield Osprey Specter. This will give the defense objective shield gating and shield regen. So with those enemies dealing 5,000 damage per hit to the objective, you're going to really, really want this, and I'd highly recommend it. All right, I think that's all the gear we use. Let's get into the gameplay, and we can do some gameplay commentary on what we were doing here. Okay, so I did fail this mission once, but you are watching the entire playthrough of the completion here. So the reason I failed, I failed on the Mirror Defense objective, is because when you're grabbing these glyphs in between, this objective does not heal. With this modifier, you have to pick up the glyphs to heal the objective. But here's the problem. If you pick up the glyphs in the transition phase, like in between rooms, the heal is basically wasted. The heal goes to nothing. So I would highly recommend that if you are doing this, make sure that you don't pick up that last 50th glyph until the objective actually starts. So kind of hard to see, but you can see that the objective is taking constant damage, and it looks like one of those explosive enemies actually did hit it there. So looking at the overguard, though, we already have 3,500 overguard. I use my heavy Arcwing gun. When you call on a heavy Arcwing gun, it does give you 2,000 overguard upon doing that. And then Dante Specter, as you can see, overguard regen. When the Dante Specter casts the 4th ability, Triumph of Dante, on kill, you will get overguard regen. So that can be very helpful for staying alive when you are the only target. We're playing this solo, we are the only target. So every enemy will be either shooting at us, a Specter, or the objective. Now, when you have about 10 seconds left on Mirror Defense, you can go ahead and activate the Necromech summoning station. Once the wave transitions to the next room, the Necromech will be instantly killed. Now, it doesn't actually shave time off the timer. I didn't really look, but it's kind of just funny to have it instantly die when you summon it. And to be honest, we're doing this solo anyway, so summoning the mech could be a little bit overly risky depending on how good of gear you have. Now, as you can see in the background, a lot of the work is being done by melee influence, just like melee enemy, AoE electric procs, AoE viral procs of our viral electric build. It can take care of most things in the game, or at least most things in this mission. And we've got the Ancient Specter, just, kind of like getting some fire off our back and giving us DR. And here I am activating the Necromech right before the ending of the wave, and the wave ends and the Necromech is defeated. So reduced mission timer by 45 seconds. Does it actually work? I don't know. It's funny, though. So in between here, I am grabbing the glyphs. I'm making sure I don't grab 50 glyphs. If I do grab 50 glyphs, that was definitely a mistake. But yeah, try to get as close to 50 as you can, and then you pick up like one glyph for the next room to get that heal instantly going, and get the radiation towers to as well. So here we are. Now, your shield drone will not be constantly camping the objective. You need to actually have the shield drone go over to the objective to give it that shield gating and that shield regen, which, I mean, to be fair, we are doing a pretty decent job here getting the enemies not near the objective, but as you saw right there, that arm enemy explodes and does a lot of damage. So be really careful about that. In this mission, if I would have not had the shield drone, we would have definitely failed, or I would have definitely failed, because there was 3 arm enemies exploding at the same time on the objective. That's about like 15,000 damage on the objective, so you gotta be really careful about that. Now as you see right there, there's a 0 on the shield of the objective. It will start regenning pretty soon, and that shield gate can make it face tank those 5,000 damage explosions. So it's just really rinse and repeat when you're in this route, when you're doing the Mirror Defense. If you see an enemy trying to summon a mech, definitely prioritize killing it as long as the objective's not actively under attack, because that extra mech will just make things a little bit more annoying for you. Now there's the arm enemy exploding, shield getting saved the day, and as far as our health bar, we've got 3,000 overguard right now, so we have no problems, like we have no worries about actually getting killed by enemies here. Now that we've gone through 2 waves of this, it's just the same exact thing, but here's the part where you can easily fail. As you're going back to that first room, remember, the objective will not heal, like if it took damage on the first wave, you going back to that room again on the 3rd wave, it will have the same health level as what you left it on the first wave. So be really careful about that. That's what I'm saying. Make sure you definitely save that heal. And also, if you're using the Elite On-Call crew member, I'd say room 3 is when you should use the Elite On-Call crew member. They last for long enough to go through the last 2 rooms. And that Elite On-Call crew member with the Kuvazar can take care of pretty much everything on his own. Now, he's not going to heal this objective, but he heals some other objectives in the game, so that's pretty nice. Yeah, at this point, it's just like, make sure the arm enemies don't get close enough to the Mirror Defense thing, and then just, proc your melee influence whenever you can. Get those electric procs out, because those electric procs can take care of these enemies pretty well. So just going through the rest of this, let's speed it up a little bit. Okay, so it's just like 2 more waves of this pretty much. So, yeah, let's just skip through most of this. So there I am summoning the mech right at the end. The mech's going to die. It's not going to really like do anything, but yeah, does it actually... I don't know if it actually shaves time off the mission, but, you know, maybe it does. Maybe it probably doesn't. So was it 144? I think that 144 is about how long these usually take, but I still like to summon it there at the end just to see it die. So, last wave here, all you gotta do is just defend the thing. Now here's where a bunch of the arm enemies were getting pretty close and dangerously close to this thing when they died. So, that's where your shield drone, which I'm trying to remember what syndicate the shield drone comes from. It might come from Cephalon Suda. Cephalon Suda has the drones, the drone specter, so get a bunch of those. Get a bunch of the new Loka Ancient Healer specters, and that will be helping you out a lot here. Honestly, as long as there's not a gear embargo modifier, this could be a strategy you use every week on nearly any frame. Get a good melee weapon with melee influence, get a specter army, and there you go. It's pretty much, it's nearly impossible to fail. Now the only thing that might be pretty rough is doing the boss fight, the eyeball boss fight. But if you got melee influence, honestly, as long as you can stay alive in that boss fight, melee influence can take care of that boss really well. So the objective is constantly taking it. It's like 100 per second it takes. So with a team, picking up all those glyphs is going to help a ton. But for me, you know, I just want... The main thing for me was just making sure the arm enemies didn't get close to it. So there's the first mission done. Solo, melee Arcane Adapter, and a normal Archon Shard for the first mission. Now we're going to the second mission, which will be Alchemy. And it's going to be a very similar situation to this first one. Survivability is your main concern here. Which is why we use all the specters. We got the Dante Specter. We're gonna use Hoba at some point. I'm gonna use my Arcwing gun, which was actually really bad time because I was being attacked when I got shot. Getting shot at while I summoned it. But yeah, get your shield drone back. Get your ancient healer drone or ancient healer specter back, and get your Dante Specter back. If you don't have a Dante Specter is probably the best one for this. But you could bring a Nidus Specter instead if you wanted to. Nidus will have the infested grass that will give you some healing. And it'll give you, also Nidus will link to you, give you some more power strength, but for this it's a lot less useful than Dante, because Dante will give you Overguard, and Overguard is very good here. I mean, they've literally had to make new modifiers to counter Overguard, because its Overguard is so powerful for this. So, once we get to the Alchemy room here, it's just going to be throw the grenades that you need for the type of element at the thing. Now, here's a tip, I actually learned about this yesterday. If you are holding a melee, and you want to throw the grenade at this objective, you do not need to switch weapons. You just push the heavy attack button, and it will throw the grenade. The like throw button becomes the heavy attack button when you are in melee mode. So I learned about that yesterday. That can make it pretty smooth. I kept having before I was like changing weapons. I'm like, man, it's annoying how you can't throw the grenade when you're in melee mode. And someone's like, hey, you just push the heavy attack button. There you go. Now I know. Now you know. We can have an easier alchemy time. And remember too, in the new game mode Ascension, you'll be throwing a bunch of those power cells at the middle thing. So that'll be even more important information going forward. So, big thing here, just make sure you survive. We've got our shield gating from Molt. We've got our Overguard from our Dante Specter. We've got healing from Molt Reconstruct. So as long as we just, do things as we're supposed to, there's pretty much no way we're going to die. You proc melee influence to get those electro procs out that will take care of the enemies, make them drop grenades. And one of the annoying things here is remembering which grenade to pick up, because there can be a lot of, when there's a purple grenade and a blue grenade right next to each other, it can be kind of hard to tell which one is which. But, that's probably the hardest part of the mission, is just getting the grenades to throw at the thing. The more players you have in Alchemy, the more grenades you need to throw at the middle to complete the wave. So in solo, it actually goes pretty quick. So just skipping through a lot of this, you just, grab the grenades and throw at the middle thing. Now that we're on the pipe part of this, this is really not that difficult. Just, in anything, if being solo makes this even easier, because there's no one double shooting the pipe. So once the pipe pressure level gets into the middle range, near the top of it, shoot the pipe to reduce the pressure level, and you just do that over and over again. The alchemy was actually pretty straightforward here. It's really just a survivability issue when you're surrounded by all these enemies that deal quite a bit of damage. But compared to that first mission, this is actually a cakewalk, because there's no exploding enemies. The exploding enemies deal so much damage they can be kind of annoying. So we'll move on to the second wave here, and we're just doing the same thing, but with magnetic instead. So we're just going to go to the conduit, or the crucible, and then just activate it, and, just kill enemies. Okay, so here we are on the... So basically, it's just rinse and repeat on this one. There's not really much to say here besides just stay alive, use your specters if you need to. And yeah, on the weeks that we have gear embargo, this becomes a lot harder because you don't have as much like as a solo player, you don't have anything like really absorbing the shots. But yeah, for here, it's actually pretty straightforward. Now we're going to move on to the survival mission. Because, yeah, Alchemy is actually really easy if you know what to do. It's just kind of just a waiting game. Wait until you kill the enemies that drop the proper grenades you need. So, that's basically it for the Alchemy. Now let's go on to the survival. Now, the survival, this one is definitely going to be probably one of the harder missions on solo because the spawns feel pretty bad. And not to mention, there will be no life support towers with this current modifier. So, you have to kill a bunch of mechs. And then there could be like 3 or 4 mechs on the field at the same time. So, you either really need to be, have some situational awareness about this. So, I'm going to, again, recommend you bring all your Specters. Bring your Dante Specter, bring your Shield Drone Specter, and even bring your Ancient Healer Specter too, why not? Now, you might want to wait to bring your Elite on call until you summon the first mech. In these Elite Deep Archimedian survival missions, there are these mech summoning stations. Those mech summoning stations will reduce the overall time the mission takes if you slay out that mech. And that's where the Elite on call will be very, very helpful. And as you can see right there, melee influence doing some good work killing those groups of enemies. But yeah, as long as you just have decent melee influence build, you can kill the mech with melee influence. It is surrounded by specters, of course. But yeah, we're proccing melee influence off the mech to kill enemies in the hallway too. So melee influence, get it now. Basically, you can do a lot of work with melee influence in these missions. And in the J Shadows update, it will be even better with Blast Electric. So yeah, we're just gonna, you have to find I'd recommend finding a good enemy flow spawn spot. You are looking for a bunch of enemies to spawn here, so you can kill them, because the enemies can still drop life support, but the towers will not spawn. So just do that, summon the mech if you feel comfortable with it. Also, you're gonna be having a like red icon mech appearing pretty soon. That's the one that will drop your life support for you on the ground. Now there it is right there. Same strategy, just try to stay alive. This is where the shield gating and mystical bond became kind of a problem, because we are like, we're pretty much just face tanking a mech's attacks. So the overguard was very helpful here. But yeah, as I'm casting Molt, I am getting purple overshields for shield gating with brief respite. That's making it where I'm invincible for a brief moment of time. And that lets me face tank those attacks and then just go back into my loop of basically invincibility spam. So I believe that mech is dead. It might not be dead yet, but either way, the mech that mech needs to die because that's where your life support comes from. So yeah, there's a Gruzzling here. The Gruzzling is not really worth your time most of the time, but hey, if you want the extra drop, why not? The Gruzzling's not going to drop any life support or anything like that. But now, since I already had my Elite on-call Hoba crew member out, I summoned a second mech here to chop off another 45 seconds and to make this Elite Archimedian go quite fast. So the Elite on-call, that crew member's Czar shots do a lot of damage to these mechs. And it really just makes you able to slay it out really quickly. So great stuff there. And as you can see, there is another mech. This modifier for survival makes it where there's lots and lots of mechs. So that's why I'm saying make sure you know how to shield gate for this. Like if I was playing a Naros or Nidus, I'd probably just die to this guy because he deals a good amount of damage per hit. Not to mention, like, what is he, like level 300? So level 300 mech is going to be hitting any frame really hard, which is why I'm relying on shield gating and the overguard so much here. The shield gating is extremely good for this. So we just wait for the mech to get close to us, we proc melee influence, we kill the nearby trash ads. Now, I actually got stuck in my auto melee here and almost died because of it, but yeah, all things considered, as long as you're not getting stuck in auto melee, it shouldn't be that bad. And as you can see, the button is actually saying, hey, do you want to summon another mech? I'd say take it one mech at a time, honestly. Unless you're bringing like an EV Trin or something, take it one mech at a time if you're using normal stuff. And, just slowly but surely. My life support level is at 90%, so I don't really need to summon another mech, but I chose to anyway. So now at this time, we have 2 mechs on the field because I decided to push that button, and there's the 90-second life support mech there too. Another thing, when you are summoning this mech, do not use a stun ability as it's being summoned. You can stun the mech in the summoner thing, and it will not move. So I did that with Rhino last week, and I kind of failed the mission because of it. So be really aware that you do not need to stun the mech while you're summoning it, or bad things might happen. So now that we've got 2 mechs on the field, it is a little bit risky to go out there because I'll be getting shot by normal enemies and 2 mechs. So yeah, try to just take out one at a time if you can. And honestly, when you're this close to the life support being full, you can just be a little bit more, you can be a little more lazy about it. Just like, kill some normal enemies. Don't only focus on the mech here. But you do need to kill those mechs if your life support is getting kind of low, because that's the only place life support comes from. So, yeah, if you got 2 or 3 mechs at the same time, it might be a little bit dangerous. But, if you use, like, shield gating and overguard, nothing is really dangerous in the game. That's why they had to put decrees or modifiers to make overguard less powerful. So, yes, it's just a mech a mech fiesta here. There's a mech every 90 seconds, and it feels like there's more than one mech every 90 seconds, honestly, with how many mechs are spawning here. So a lot of our damage is coming from melee influence. I'm just doing light attacks and melee influence with 12x modifier, so the Weeping Wounds is proccing the electric and the viral quite often. So that's basically going to be it for the survival. Another mech down, and we are basically done. And now that you've got this, we're just looking for the extraction at this point. So things that you can pull away from this video today as far as recommendations for elite Archimedeans. Melee influence is very good. Dante Specter, very good. Shield Drone Specter and the Ancient Healer Specter, very good. When you have the modifier for extra mechs, maybe take it one mech at a time if you're doing it solo. And the biggest tip of them all, do not do this because the 50 Vossor at the end is an insult. Do all of these modifiers besides one if you choose to do it solo, and just like bring Dante or something because Dante is so good for this. And you'll have, hopefully a pretty safe and reliable time doing these elite Archimedeans, guys. Hopefully you found this video fun and helpful. Let me know any, comments on the format you think I should change in the future besides just, show all the stuff. And there's 2 Tau shards as the loot. So honestly, pretty worth it if you want to drop the Netracell search pulses, but if you don't have the gear for this, it might be a little bit more frustrating. So I'll see you guys next video. Appreciate all the support and take it easy. Peace.